I like this week. We get to make something really kind of cool. There's a lots of things that it's teaching you. Don't get frustrated with it because all of this stuff you can really use later in life. So this is kind of what it looks like. You will be starting with a base. Think about the fact that a client might have given this to you as just a basic drawing, and you've got to make it look good. So I'm going to show you some of the main features so that hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for you to follow along with the book. Now, I know we worked with gradients before, but realize that you can create gradients and save them as swatches. So the swatches, by the way, I am in Essentials Classic, which I think is the easiest one to work with for the book. In your swatches panel, one of the things it's going to have you do is get rid of everything that hasn't been used already. So you can say, select all that are unused. These are everything that is not in this design, and then you can just delete them. Then it wants you to look at it as a list, and you also need to delete this grays one here, so I'll throw that in the trash. But anyway, we can make more swatches, and we can even make gradients. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is get your swatches panel, grab it by the name swatches, and just pull it off to the side so that you can have it open at the same time as the gradient tool. So we can kind of move things around, and realize if you want to put it back, you just grab it by right there where it says swatches, and you can put it back. When it turns blue like there, it's going to put it back. So to grab it again, just grab the word swatches and pull it off to the side. Okay, so now we can actually take some of these things that are in our swatches and assign it to different parts of the gradient. So the book wants us to use this one right here, the second one. Oops, I lost my gradient. So we're going to go to a radial gradient. You're going to pick that up and drag it and drop it on the first part. And then the second one, we're going to grab this bottom one and drag it to right there. So now we have created a little gradient using two of these colors that are in our swatch. Okay, so now to finish what the book wants, it's going to take this one right here that says C22. Sorry, don't click on it. Do you see what happened when I clicked on it? It went away from our gradient. So let's go back to our gradient. C22, this one, and drag it and put it in the middle. And it wants to be at 67. So you can just type 67 is the actual place. Do you see where it moved to 67 right there? We got one more thing we got to do. We're going to take this bottom one and put it about at 30%. So we actually have 4 different little things in this gradient. But on this one, double click that. And then when you go to the tint slider, you can, which is this one right here. So if you click on it, it's going to open up this little thing and make that 70% of a tint. I'll just type in 70% if you can't get it. Okay, finally we have actually got the gradient that it wants. Now that we have this gradient, you can pick it up right here that I'm pointing to by the thumbnail and drag it over here and drop it. And it has actually made a gradient swatch for us. The book does want you to call that ice radial. So if you click on the word new gradient swatch, you can call it ice radial. And it means radial gradient. So what's great about that is we are now, I kind of move this out of the way, we are now going to apply it to this little thing. So I'm going to grab the selection tool, and when you double click on the ice gradient, it's going to put it in there. Isn't that pretty? Now what's cool about these gradients is we could also apply them along a stroke if we wanted to. So I'm going to put that, it's kind of hard to see. Maybe if I zoom in a little bit. Let me move the swatches back over because it's in the way. So once again, you're just going to grab it by the word swatches and you can kind of put it back. So I just added that down here just to kind of show you. But one of the things that it's going to have you do that is really cool is use the width tool. And I wanted to show you that because the way they have you use it for the book is not all that exciting, but you could really use it for your personal work. So what it does, I'm just going to do this on anything. It'll is when you're in the width tool, you can click and drag and it's going to change the width of any line that you've created. You see it's making the handles. And so you can make some really cool things with this that, I mean, look, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it's pretty cool. Now know that you can also, instead of just freehand drawing them like I'm doing, if you double click on them, it's going to bring up a width edge point, which the book is going to want you to do so that you could type in exactly, like I need that to be 0.22. It's going to change it. We could also have one side, like let's say we want one side to be smaller than the other. I can unlock them. And then let's make this one 10. You see how it made one side smaller than the other side. So you can really do some interesting stuff with it. What the book has you doing is not all that exciting. You're just kind of changing the width of this, which makes it look a little bit more 50s, kind of cool retro-y looking. And this is not exactly what it wants, but you know, something kind of like that is what you're doing. So like I said, the way you're using it in this, I don't like that. I'm going to undo, Control Z. It's not super exciting for this, but you can see where you could really do, I mean, that does kind of make it a little bit more interesting there. So that's the width tool. I really like it. It is right here. And remember, if you can't find a tool, I had somebody email me about couldn't find a tool. If you click and hold your mouse down, you'll see all of the things that are there. But if you literally cannot find it, go down here to these 3 dots, and here are all of the tools. So if you don't have a tool, and it's going to depend on what workspace you're in. Say we needed the perspective grid tool, which, oh, you do not want to mess with that. It's annoying, but you can pick it up and drag it in here, and now you have it. I do not want it in here, so I'm going to put it back. Because if you get in that tool, so you can see practically everything is already in here. And that is this little tool right here. Oh, see, that's why you don't want the perspective grid tool on. If by accidentally you turn this on, the deal with it is you have to be in the perspective grid tool to turn off the perspective grid tool. So if ever you accidentally turn that on, you have to be in it to turn it back off again. Okay, so let's move on. The next thing we want to learn about is creating a pattern. So we've got this little thing right here, and we can use this to make a pattern. Okay, so patterns live in the swatches. So we know how to make a new regular color, and we know how to make a gradient. Now let's make a pattern. So if you grab this just with the regular selection tool and just drag it into the swatches, you see it says new pattern swatch. So we're making a new pattern swatch. Snowflake. Okay, so right now it's not anything. I would deselect what you have and now double click right here in the little thumbnail. So I have double clicked on the little icon and brought up the pattern options. And you will see that it's just showing us in general what this pattern is going to look like, which that's kind of cool. Now here is our original, and then this is all these pattern things. So if you have this dim copies on, which I think it defaults to be on, you can see that that shows you there's the original and those are the copies. So that's kind of helps. What the book wants you to do is you're going to have these locked, and it wants it to be at 0.5. And that's the distance they are from each other. Do you see they kind of, oh, wait, hold on. Oh, I'll just make them. They both need to be 0.5 inches. That changed the space between each one. Now, instead of grid, I'm going to show you, let me turn off dim just so I can show you. There's all kind of different ways that you could have them all around each other. So this is kind of a cool thing. It wants brick by row at 1/3. And that's the way it kind of wants that pattern to be. Okay, so when we're done with that, you just click done right here and it'll close all of that. We now have a new little thing we've created in our swatches. So now we can go and get the rectangle tool, and instead of filling it with just full color, we're going to fill it with this pattern. See, that's what we have selected. So now we can make this background and just draw a box, and it is, hello, Now, that is a little much, I think. Yeah, just a little much. So instead of, we could change this whole thing, but we could change this whole layer, but let's just go ahead and change the pattern and it will adjust it. So let's get back into that. And we're going to go to the original. This is, if you're following along with the book, this confuses people. We're going to go to the original, which is right there. Remember, if you have dim copies on, you can see that's the original. And we're going to go ahead and change the opacity of that original to 25%. So now all the copies, it's not going to be quite as crazy of a pattern. And I'm going to hit done. Do you see that it's a lot lighter now? Now, of course, we would need to go into our layers and we need to put that on the background. Right now, I've got it over the top of everything. So let's grab that rectangle right here and pull it all the way down to the bottom. There we go. Well, it's not completely at the bottom. Plus, I've completely messed mine up, you guys, because it's not supposed to look like that, and all this is weird. Okay, so we've learned how to make a gradient swatch. We've learned how to make a pattern swatch. You're also going to be making a brush, a new brush. So let's get going with that. Okay, so here's some of the brushes that you're going to be making. These are pattern brushes. I'll make the first brush with you together. So let me kind of turn some of this off just so I'm going to make a new layer just to have somewhere to work on this with it. Okay, so what the book wants you to do to create a brush is we're going to draw a line, and it tells you to go grab the line segment tool and turn off that and turn off fill and have a 1 point stroke, and then it tells you to draw a 1 inch. Okay, this is kind of hard. The easiest way to do this is to just double click on that and type in 1 and make sure it's at 0 angle so it's straight, and just say okay. There you go. The difference here is I hadn't clicked where I wanted it to go. So when I clicked right there, it knew where I wanted it to put that line that I just drew. And it tells us it wants that to be at 75%. So I just clicked it and I'm going to tell it 75% opacity up here. Okay. Then it tells us to copy that, which is Control C. And it wants us to paste it in front. So instead of just saying Control V for paste, say edit, paste in front. So now we have two exactly the same lines. You're like, yeah, this is really exciting, Amy. No, I know. So we can now make this line 2.5. Just type in 2.5. So it's a little bit bigger. And we're going to pull the opacity of this top line down to 30%. So if you zoom in on it, you can see that, oh, okay, we're making a little bit more interesting of a line. So now you've got to select both of these, and we need to turn them into something other than just a line. The way you do that is go Object, Expand. And so what it did was it turned them into shapes instead of lines. And now we're going to group them together. I'm just selecting both of them, and I'm going to say Object, Group. Now, so far, we've been making things in the Swatches panel. Now we're going to make something in the Brushes panel. So the Brushes panel is right here. And of course, if you can't find it, you go to Window, Brushes. I'm just going to pull this down a little bit to make it a little bit better. And literally, you can pick this thing up that you made and drag it and drop it in there. It's going to ask us what type of brush do we want. Now, we're going to be making scatter brushes later, but right now we're just making an art brush. And say, okay. It's going to ask us all this stuff. We're going to call this ski lift. All of this stuff is fine, and say okay. Do you see it has made, this is it right here. If you hover your mouse over it, you'll see it says ski lift. We can now delete this. We don't need it anymore. But what's great about this, let me go, if I make a line, well, let's not make it with the line tool. Let me just draw something. If I draw something with the paintbrush, now, because I was on that brush, it went ahead and made it look. So if I use just a basic one, come on, I'm trying to use the basic one. All right, let me select this and turn it back into the basic. Okay, there's a basic line. I can now use ours that we just made. If I double, that's a different, there you go, ski lift. So if I have that turned on, anything that I draw will be in that brush. Here's another one that we made for the earlier one. You kind of get it. So brushes are fun. That's a very simple one, but you see how it can really elevate your drawings if you change what the brush looks like. Every line, you can really easily create different kinds of lines. Now, this isn't from the book, but let's make a scatter brush real quick because they're fun. So I'm just going to go grab, make a star with the star tool. Let's fill it in. There we go. And I'm going to make it a shape, so I'm going to expand it. Okay, so now we have the shape of a star, and I'm going to drag it down here into the brush. And this time, instead of an art brush, I want to make a scatter brush. Now, this, like I said, this is not from the book. I'm just kind of telling you. So let's have a random size. Now, if you are on a tablet or something that has pen pressure, you could actually make this go with your pen pressure. So let's say random, I want it to start kind of small and then go to random. I want it to randomly space and randomly scatter. I'm just kind of guessing at this. I don't know what it's going to look like. Oh, I want it to rotate too. All right, here we go. Let's see what happens. All right, so I'm going to delete that one and go get the brush tool. Grab my, I don't know what this is going to look like, you guys. Oh, there they are. They're so big I couldn't see them. Okay. So what happened is I made my, I told you I wasn't really paying. This is why, you go with the book. I have them so scattered apart that they went way, let's see. Oh, yeah, look, I have the size going up to 500. No wonder, Amy, Lord. Yes, I want to apply it to the ones that are already there. Yes, I do. There we go. That's a lot smaller and I can pay attention. Okay, so let's try this again. I'm going to delete everything. They're still way out there. Okay, well, the scatter brushes, obviously, I have gone a little bit crazy on my scatter brush. Maybe my oh yeah, look, I've got a 400. I made everything way too big. Let's make everything a little bit different. Okay, we're trying one more time. Yes, apply it to what's already there. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I should have planned this before I hit record. There we go. Now we're getting some interesting. Okay. So you can play around with scatter brushes. Anything that you guys have drawn, you can turn into a brush. So if it's an art brush, it would be more like just one or two. If it's a scatter brush, stars is the perfect example of something that you would want to scatter brush. So now let's move on to symbols. Okay, so symbols, you should be able to find it right here under brushes. If you can't find it, of course, just go to Windows Symbols. And it's going to bring these default symbols, which, they're kind of, you can just grab one and put it, yeah, there you go. It's a symbol. There are a lot of them and you can get them on the internet, even more of them. So if you click right here in the hamburger menu, you can open the symbol library and there's all kind of fun stuff here. Let's see, let's open up flowers. There's some symbols of flowers. Ones that are very useful is the web stuff, web buttons and bars. So if you're trying to make a web mock-up, it's got these little presets of bars. Now, the reason that you'd want to use this is, let's say we have done a website and we used this multiple times to create a mock-up of a website. And the client comes and says, I don't like that being black in the middle. So what we can do is double click on one instance of the symbol and it's saying, do you want to, edit all of them? Yeah, I do. So let me zoom in on that one and I want to go grab that black part. They don't like it that way. I'm going to change it to this color. And let's go ahead and change the stroke to, oh, that'll look weird. Yeah, whatever. Okay, when I get back out of this, it has changed all of those symbols to be the same way. So this is why it's a good idea. Otherwise, if you had just made it you would have to go and copy and paste this same thing however many times in your website. So you see where this symbols can be really, really useful. So the book has given you symbols that you're going to use in this chapter. So if you go to the hamburger menu again and say open symbol library, like I said, these are all the ones that come with it, come with Illustrator as is. You can go down to other library at the bottom and go and find the one. So those are all the presets. Go find the one the book gave you. Hold on. Student files, skiing. It's this one right here, Map Symbols AI. And it's going to open up the symbols file, and it just, there it is. It was behind this. So those are all the symbols that we're going to use to complete this map. And it will have you change them and that kind of thing. So symbols are super cool. Now, another cool thing you can do with symbols, let me kind of delete some of the, well, I'll just leave off. No, I'll delete some. Let me go back to some of those fun symbols that we had. Okay, so for instance, that Gerber daisy. I can go to the symbol sprayer tool, which is here. And remember, hold your mouse down. The symbol sprayer tool, if I'm on that symbol, and I can just spray instances of that all over the screen. Now, what's cool about that, and that's how you're going to put all of the trees and stuff on your map. Once you get it there, there's tools. If you hold this down, we have the symbol shifter tool, the symbol scruncher, sizer, so you can shift things around. I'm just clicking and dragging, and it'll kind of, oh wait, I'm still on the sprayer. The symbol shifter tool shifts them, so you can, instead of trying to grab each one individually, you can kind of shift them around, and you can see that it's making these little arrows. The scruncher is going to grab them closer together, kind of scrunch them closer. Spinner, I like to spin them so that some of them are a little bit, yeah, so they kind of, I don't know if you can see, but they're spinning around. So symbols are really cool. So have fun with that. And like I said, if you've made brushes and made things, turn them into symbols and spray them all over the screen. Okay, so one of the easiest thing that's going to help you for the rest of your career using stuff like this is clipping masks. So now, you know, if you had made something complex like this, obviously just the stuff that's on the artboard is what's going to be printed. So if you wanted to look at that, there is a new view just here in the last year or so, View Trim, and that's going to show you what it's actually going to look like when it prints out. But if you're sitting here, you can see there's still stuff outside of the box. We just don't see it. Well, you don't want to send that to somebody with all this extra stuff. Something accidentally might happen with it. So let's get out of trim view. We need to actually clean all this stuff up. So the easiest way to do that is with a clipping mask. So in your layers panel, and this is for any project, you are going to be doing that with this week. You are going to be using it, but I also want you to just realize you can use it with any project. So what you do is go and get a rectangle tool and draw on top of everything. So make sure we're on the very top. Now, it doesn't matter if it's see-through or what kind of box. This is the very, very top. Now we need to select everything. And we're going to say Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And what it does is it takes the very top layer and uses it to cut everything that's beneath it in. So let me show you how I did that again. I'm just going to undo. I drew a box that's on top of everything. See that rectangle right there? Then I selected everything and I said Object, Clipping Mask, Make. Now you can use this in smaller areas, like let me just make a new thing that's not as complicated as all of this. So I can, one second. Just going to make a new. So let's say we're just kind of drawing something over here. I'm just drawing some weirdness, and I've got a star. And let's use the flare tool because it's here. All right, I got all kind of stuff going on in here, and a line. Oh, I just still in the star tool. Okay, so we've got all this craziness, but I want all of that to be incorporated inside. Let me make this star something a little bit better. There we go. I want all of that to not be crazy like that. I want it to be inside a box. So let's try and use that we just learned. I'm going to go get the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle over the top of all of it. So you can see we've got 1, 2, all of these layers and the rectangles on top of it. I'm now going to select all of them and say Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And it put all of them inside that top box. So if you look at this now, this clip group, all of this stuff is in here. Now I can still adjust things within here. So if, let's say I just wanted to move this one thing. Oops. I'm moving it with my keyboard just so I don't accidentally pick something up and drag it around. But do you see that you can move things within it? And I could either even make something. Let's say that I make, like I want to put yet something else in it. Let's make this a different color. Green. I wish I could add that into this clip group. I can. Just pick it up and drag it. As long as it's underneath, it's going to be part of that clip group. You see that now it's in there? So I literally just picked it up and put it on there. So clipping groups, clipping masks are really useful. A lot of the stuff in this chapter, it can be tedious, but you can really, really use it in your own work. I did put a note, if you are using a Mac, we've had problems in the past with people being able to save this final project. If you do, please contact me. I'm not really sure what the problem is, but it happened to at least 2 students last semester. So if you're on a Macintosh, save often. You may have a problem with this one. Just let me know and we'll work through it. Okay, y'all get to work.